right, tape's rolling. Chip's interview with Dave Roth.
We're way up in North Danville, up in the sugar woods of my friend and neighbor, David Roth.
How are you, Chip?
Fantastic. I wish I could talk. Take two.
You need to, can you come across with a sandwich board, please? Thank you. You did it. Well done.
I'll voice slate it. Chip interview with David Roth, take two.
We're up in the woods of North Danville, deep in the sugar bush of my friend and neighbor, David Roth.
How are you, Chip?
Great. Who couldn't be great on a day like today?
It's a beautiful day to be here, and these trees are telling us they're getting ready.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a very unique and interesting sugar bush. Dave, tell me the history.
So George Cary essentially created the maple industry, not only in the Northeast, but truly in the United States. He began his work up here in Vermont in the late 1800s. And this sugar bush that we are so fortunate to be in today was one of his first. The very trees that we're looking at standing under right now were some of the very same trees George Cary tapped almost 150 years ago. So this not only has history and terroir, it has a real sense of place and a sense of importance, again, not only to Vermont, but to the maple sugar and maple syrup industry all around the nation. If George Cary hadn't done what he started, we wouldn't be here today and people wouldn't be enjoying this extraordinary bounty of these beautiful trees.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you've really brought it back from it was dead really for a number of years. You know, you have been privileged to live and work all over the world, David.
Yes.
How did you happen to choose Vermont and specifically St. Johnsbury to make your home?
It's a wonderful question. The short answer is St. Johnsbury Academy.
Yeah.
And of course, many of the Academy students have already been up here, as have a number of members of the administration. Yeah. My family and I, we have two daughters, and we knew that we wanted them to have not only the best education they could have, but in the best environment. And when we came from Burlington here to St. Johnsbury, we fell in love not only with the place, but the people, and seeing this remarkable sugar bush in conjunction with everything George Cary had thought about and wanted to do. It almost made it inevitable that this is where we were going to be, and we've loved every minute of it.
Yeah, yeah. I came for the Academy as well with the students. Tremendous opportunity. And we're actually going to be using some of those students.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about your project here for the Living Museum.
So, about a quarter mile down the road from where we're standing right now is one of George Cary's original sugar houses. Yeah. It actually says Cary Sugar House.
Old number 138.
Old number 138. And interestingly enough, though, he didn't have 138 sugar houses, but he was a remarkable marketer, because if you put 138, people will think, oh, there are 138. Really, this was his first. This was number one. And it was the sugar house in which he created some of his first remarkable maple syrup. So our goal with this property and with that sugar house is to be able to bring it back to not only its former glory, but have it actually function as a sugar house in the way that it functioned when George Cary was working this entire sugar bush. Such that, bottom line, if George Cary showed up today and looked at what we were doing and talked to you, Chip, or to my remarkable colleague, Chris Chabla, who makes all these woods work, if George Cary were to talk to Chris or to you or to anyone, he'd say, you got it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, we were lucky enough to stumble onto kind of a gold mine, right? And it's not very far from here. We found a sugar house that was literally abandoned in 1938 when the hurricane came through. All of the large trees blew over, and the local farmer threw up his hands, closed the door on the sugar house, and left. and with another colleague of ours, Matt Thomas, who is a historian and actually is writing the book on George Cary.
And he has written a book called The Maple King about George Cary, and of course has included a lot of information and pictures about this very property.
Right. Matt Thomas and I were out doing more research for his book, and we stumbled across this, and we were lucky enough to purchase the sugar house and the contents, and the plan is to move that here to George Cary's original sugar house and recreate a living museum.
The evaporator, the arch that we found in this old sugar house, it was created exactly at the right time to suggest that even if George Cary didn't use it, he knew about it, and it was absolutely contemporary with him.
Yeah.
So we'll be using a piece of equipment that George Cary very well may have used himself.
Sure.
And our goal is to be able to show people as they come up here the way that sugaring is, but more importantly, the way that sugaring was.
Yeah.
And in a way that is authentic and really brings great honor to George Cary's legacy, which is the goal in everything that we do.
Nice. Now you've developed a company, Cary Main, to market the amazing maple syrup that you make. What's going on with Cary Main?
So Cary Main has a wonderful history. In fact, George Cary built a number of houses in St. Johnsbury, and we happen to live at the corner of Cary Main. So when we were creating this business, it made perfect sense as my wife and I looked out the window and thought, well, that's a great name for a company. Yeah. We actually started the business by making maple cream.
Okay.
Which for the uninitiated, quite possibly is the most luxurious spread ever to be made. It's just simply pure maple syrup in this beautiful whipped butter sort of a consistency that goes well with practically everything you could ever eat.
Peanut butter.
And also goes well just eating from the jar.
I'm not allowed to do that.
But Cary Main, my primary goal, again, very clearly, has been to bring not only honor to and consistency George Cary's legacy, but to create the finest product on earth. So we're triple certified. In fact, we are the only Sugarbush and Sugar House in the entire state. In fact, we think potentially in all the Northeast to be organic, certified kosher, and certified halal. Yeah. And the reason we did that, very simply, is because each one of those has almost an ascending set of requirements relative to purity, relative to process, relative to paperwork. So what Chris is doing out in the woods, or what we're doing in the Sugar Bush, or what you and I do when we walk down to the old sugar house, we have to make sure we're doing it properly and authentically, and it's not just us saying we're doing it properly and authentically. It's the organic certifier, the kosher certifier, the halal certifier saying, yes, this meets our standards.
Well, it definitely is working, because it's absolutely some of the best maple syrup I've ever had. And I grew up making maple syrup.
And that chip, very honestly, that's the highest praise we could get. And we've heard that, again, fortunately, from a number of neighbors and other producers who have produced around these woods for many years, that it's, if not the finest, one of the finest syrups they've ever tried. And that isn't a surprise, because when you do everything properly, when you really produce to the very highest standards, you get an extraordinary product. Fundamentally, though, it's all about these beautiful trees. It's all about that tree and all of these trees surrounding us. And I think about every day how grateful I am to what George Cary started, because that allows us to continue that work today.
We're lucky to carry it on.
We are.
So, well, thanks so much for sharing your time and expertise. Thanks for watching American Dream TV's Vermont Countryside Edition. I'm Agent Tremper. We'll see you again soon. Let's go have some sugar on snow.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.